good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are, welcome. If you're watching this on the replay, we're so grateful you're here. If you're watching this within our resource library, which we are taping.
Ruh-roh.
Oh no.
And is frozen.
Oh, is it Anne's internet? I thought it was my internet.
No, it's Anne. But look at that beautiful frozen moment. It's like a painting. It's like a statue.
I'm gonna text her. This is happening.
And she's gone entirely. She's gonna come back. I know it. So,
hi, everyone.
Let's do a tap dance. Yeah, Josh, you do it. I want to see you go.
Oh,
I usually thought it was me because I'm the one with the internet problems. But
I love it. No, we're excited to be here today. We've got a great conversation planned for everybody, and we'll just stall a couple minutes here before Anne comes back in. If you're joining us from the future, hello, welcome. We're so glad you're here. If you're joining us now, leave a comment below and tell us what your favorite, I want to say, what's your favorite tank top? Because Hunter's got the best tank top on today.
Well, thank you.
I was saying, everyone, it looks like my daughter's top. I was like, is he wearing Isla's top? And then he pointed out it wouldn't be my daughter's top because why?
Because they're butts. This is from a wonderful queer artist that I met, and I bought it directly from him. That he has butts all over his things, but they're sneaky butts. They're hidden butts. At first blush, people are like, is that an R? I'm like, yeah, it's the letter R. That's what it is.
That's what I needed on my shirt today.
That's right. It's for Robin and Rudolph, and definitely not a butt.
It's been a while since we've done one of these as a team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
I know Anne's like, owning LinkedIn right now. So she probably feels this is like just another day. For us, we're like, oh yeah, we got to prep for this thing. It's coming up.
Yeah. Totally. Well, let's see if she said anything in that. Well, so this is my favorite tank top. I'm like, it's even though it's 23, feels like 23 degrees here in New York City, like we're getting pretend spring. Mm-hmm. So I like yesterday it was like 55. So I'm trying to summon that warmer energy from the West. Come to us. Let's see where it is.
Oh, Anne's internet completely died in her hotel, so she is working on it.
All right.
Cool.
Well, hey, while we've got a couple minutes, there has been a ton going on in the world of AI and new tools and new tech, new models. Blitz round. Sarah, what are you most interested in, like the last couple weeks of AI? What's been going on?
I honestly have just been really focused. I try to tune out a lot of the like hype and the news and things like that, but I did just see something about Klarna and their chatbot that is doing the work of 700 people. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to me because we sort of like intellectually, the people who are working in this space understand, and it's probably not much of a surprise, but it's really powerful when these case studies start coming up with actual numbers attached to them that are objectively like happening in different spaces that we can now like actually point to and study and draw in as examples for clients. So I think like more and more of these things will start coming to the forefront. So yeah, that's what's been kind of top of mind for me today in terms of what's happening in AI. What do you all think about that?
Love that. Just question. I didn't read too much into it yet, but the workers that they've replaced, is this customer service chatbot?
I don't know if they said necessarily that they replaced. It's a customer service chatbot that they were talking about, but I think they were essentially saying that it's doing the work of about 700 agents or something like that.
Yeah,
I didn't read the full article, honestly, but that's the kind of spin that's yeah.
Yeah, and the other highlights too is it's expected to drive $40 million in profit in 2024, because it's also, the chatbots are 24/7, and apparently they are getting the work done in 1/5 of the time that humans were. So customers are having a faster experience with the chatbots solving their problems.
Yeah. Well, we've started to see speed as a big component within the models competing with each other to get answers quicker. And I think that's going to be something we see more and more and more, just the speed war of as fast as I can type it, it can come. And then at some point we're going to be as fast as I can think it, my response will be there. And when you're talking about, I mean, I couldn't keep up with a system that had an entire knowledge base directly wired in. Like when I think about how I answer questions and serve my customers, it's like, I would rather have a tool that isn't going to hallucinate it, going to get the right answer, going to find it right away, get the response to the customer as soon as possible. Like that's a huge value prop. Here she is. Hi, Anne.
Who knows? Who knows?
Welcome back.
Who knows? You know what? I have to tell you this, like in the realm of technology. So I'm in a hotel, and I vividly remember back in the day when we had dial-up, and they would charge you for every like minute that you were on there. Naturally, as per earlier discussion today with ADHD and travel and everything like that, of course I left my internet on and left the hotel room and just got charged for like $1 bajillion. And so then I get into like what is the actual cost of doing the tech that we do, which I don't fully understand. And then like, why were they just able to just like remove it from my bill if it cost at least something, you know? Stuff like that. Okay, where are we, friends?
We were just talking about like what stood out in AI news in the recent weeks. And the conversation we were talking about was just how successful. What was the company name?
Klarna.
Klarna
with an L. KL.
They're like the buy now, pay later finance platform.
Like every time you buy something on Amazon or any other website, and it's kind of like it's a form of credit, pretty much. It's like a credit card with a really low interest rate, like 5.9 or something like that. But
payments, like that kind of
payments. But if you miss the payments, that's how they get you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we are ready to segue, Anne. You have a great course to work with.
Thank you. And if I drop off again, and you guys just keep it rolling. So we were going to talk about people, process, and culture today. One of the things that we've had lots and lots of conversations about, and we're seeing it with our clients now, is as important as the tech is in itself, it's really the people, the process, and the culture that's going to make the biggest impact, and where the normal everyday people, right, the non-developers, the CEOs of tech companies, where we're going to be able to make the biggest difference for responsible AI adoption and people working, more humane jobs, and, liking the work that they do, feeling joy again, and improving cultures and making them more inclusive and diverse. And really, in our group here, we're big fans of the idea of kind of upending the power imbalance, and that's all the people, process, and culture. So I thought I would dive in. We're going to deal with first people, then process, then culture, and each of us will offer an observation and a takeaway, so that this is super actionable for anyone who's here, whether it's now or later. So with people, the thing that I see as being most important, and it's interesting because this is not new per se to AI, but I do see it being more important now than it has been in the past, is, if you're in an organization or you have even just a few people you're working with, or you're part of a community of practice, an industry group, whatever like community you have where you've got people around you who are faced with integrating a totally new way of working, it's really important to have a champion. And in many cases, you will be that person. Like, if you can be that champion, you will become, well, first of all, you're just doing good in the world, right? If we have champions out there who are advocating for ethical and responsible use, data privacy, less bias, more transparency, etc. Like, that's a good thing for everybody. It's the rising tide that lifts all boats, and it's also really good for your career. Let's say I'll land the plane in a second, but for those of you who are employees and are a few maybe layers removed from ultimate decision makers, this is an opportunity for you to get into those spaces. The more you know, the more of a go-to person you're going to be, and they're not able to afford to not listen to you. It's just like when there's any new technology, there are always a couple of people who are like the go-tos, and it does not matter what level of the organization you are, what work group you're in, what projects you're working on. People will be, all up in your DMs saying, can you teach me how to do this thing? So whether it's you or whether it's somebody else, having a champion for integrating AI, I think, is really one of the biggest keys to successful integration. Josh, what are your observations about people?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing on the people side is that it's very easy to filter out who's going to get it and who's going to just not. And I think the biggest factor, we've talked a little bit about it, is that curiosity. Like, am I as an individual interested in exploring what this thing could do for me? Like, there's a tad bit of optimism that you need. I always say, like, you need a tad bit of spite to the way that you're currently doing things, the ability to like push through these, like, you'll try something, it may not work the first time. You'll try it a second time. You may not get exactly what you want. You might try 10 times and you're still like, man, I have a hard time realizing or finding out how this is going to actually help me, because it sounds like a robot still, and it's not the best thing. Curiosity plus spite. Yes. Those two things are like the biggest factors those few things are the biggest factors I see in people who are successful in jumping in, learning the tech, learning how to be a power user in any of these tools. And from a people's perspective, if you're leadership and you're looking at, how can AI technology help my company? How can we move the bottom line? How can we achieve all of our objectives and march towards our vision faster? Getting your team the tools and the training and the kind of permission to explore and to try things in this space, I think, is a huge component. Like, to have that top-down support so that your team can become equipped, you're getting them tools. It's so often people look at this as an expense and not an investment. Like, if you invest in the people at your company and they're able to develop their AI intuition, which is a phrase that we heard from our buddies at the Stay in the Lane crew, like, they're awesome. It's such a good concept. Your intuition on how to engage with this tech, no matter what tool it is, the more you increase that, the more you're going to be able to deploy solutions into your day-to-day. So top down, bottom up, like this whole, like, wherever you fall in the organization, there's action to take, and there are skills that you can develop to really take care of yourself. Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I wanted to actually draw in both, Anne's perspective and yours in a practical way, where I just heard yesterday from someone on my TikTok who reached out to me, and he had been DMing me and saying, I really want to get into the AI space, but I'm not really sure how to do that. Like, what's the best way? And I just said, just build use cases and speak about them in your content, because he does other content. Mm-hmm. And so he reached to me last night, and he said, I had my ex-boss reach out to me saying that he wants me in on a project to help him with AIifying something in the insurance industry. And he went back to him and said, hey, I'd love to work on it with you as a co-founder. You know, like that's the kind of like leverage that he's getting now from just kind of investing in himself and being like that AI person, in addition to into some other opportunities that are coming his way because he's just, you know, becoming known to be the AI person. So that's like just a really practical way or example of sharing for people who are kind of considering what that looks like, is that these opportunities can rise up to the surface for you pretty quickly, depending on your networks and how you know, kind of leverage those. And in relation to what Josh was saying also, yes, in terms of people and investing in people and giving people the space, one of the things that I really love to talk about as well is like scaling excellence, because ultimately what it feels to me is that AI is really about scaling, right? Like it's about taking a process or intelligence or a system or whatever it is and being able to do it at a much larger scale, much faster. And I think for a lot of you know, business owners invest so much into building excellence in their organizations, and that's through people, right? And one of the things that I think that works really well when people are considering the people versus AI question is invest in your people, because that's the kind of excellence that you want to scale. And there's this really beautiful quote that I want to read up to you that kind of summarizes this, by Robert Sutton, who says, scaling up excellence is the key to creating a great organization. So if you have excellence, if you've invested in building excellence in your teams, that is when you can really scale that excellence through systems like AI that are highly scalable systems. So that's my perspective on the people piece. Hunter.
Ooh, look at me, and now I get to be all big and center stage. Oh, I like big butts, and I cannot lie. You haven't noticed yet. Yes, these are butts. These are butts. But I have something to say. Okay. So people. I think there's a couple things. Everyone and Josh, Sarah, everything you said is spot on. For scaling, what I think is very interesting with AI is that it can also, when we hear and we talk about scaling, we're usually thinking about scaling businesses, right? Scaling ideas. But ideas start with people, and if an individual person can scale their own performance. And I'm seeing that in my work, right? I am now able to do way more in a day and get more done because I'm utilizing these tools on a micro level. And then the more of the system is using that, more of your team is using that, then you're raising the bar. And now suddenly, if you're a solopreneur, or maybe you're a team of 6, a team of 10, now you're a team of 100, now you're a team of 1,500. And so it's this wonderful feedback loop that works on itself, right? So you get to scale your own productivity. I love that story, like what you were saying, Sarah, about that person that stepped up, reached out to you for help, which is so hard to do, asking for help. And then look what happens. Good things happen. So I love that. And now becoming the person, right? So I think becoming the person, the go-to person, there's a lot of people that are, myself included at times, struggle with this idea because, oh, I didn't come from tech and I'm not a programmer, so I don't actually belong in this conversation. Or I'm in fundraising. What do I know about this? I'm an actor. What do I know about this? Well, actually, I know quite a lot, and Anne knows quite a lot, and all of us know quite a lot because we're doing the research. And if we know, and so this is imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome is that little hamster wheel in my head that's telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, that my 4th grade teacher said I was dumb, and that's, like that's the story in the head, right? Not everyone has imposter syndrome. If this resonates with you, know that it's normal, know that it's not the truth, and know that if you know 5%, if you know 1% more about AI than the person next to you, then you have something to share and you have value. Because 1% right now, 2%, 3%, is enormous. You know, if you're using it, you have something to offer and you can talk about it. And I think what's given me a lot of freedom is I don't have to pretend to know everything, because that's impossible. And having humility about like, yeah, I don't know about that yet, or I don't know if this tool is a good idea. I ask that question a lot. Is this tool actually a good idea for people? Or is this going to decimate jobs without recourse?
Yes.
So there's a lot in there. So, you know, speak up, chime in on the conversations, ask questions. Questions are so important right now, because guess what? None of us actually know the answers.
No, absolutely. This was really good. There were so many threads that I could pull on. And Hunter, I'm trying to make you smaller right now. Okay. Not that you should, not, you know.
Tiny butts, petite, awesome.
Tiny one. Yeah, I mean, I love that story that you shared, Sarah. And I think it's a perfect use case for everybody who's listening of like, if you've ever wanted to accelerate your visibility, whether it's like inside your organization or inside your industry, like this is turnkey. This is not you're going to put yourself on a professional development plan, and in 5 years after you've gotten this credential and that credential, and now you're blah, blah, blah. This is literally, you start learning this stuff, you be the 5th grader to the 4th graders, and all of a sudden you're getting opportunities like having an ex-boss ask you to join them as a co-founder in something. It's just the way that it goes in this environment, which is so cool. The next thing that we'd queued up to talk about was process. And first of all, did you all introduce yourselves in the beginning?
No.
Okay.
I jumped right in.
Chaos. Dialing it back a little bit. My name is Ann Murphy, and I'm the founder and CEO of Empowered Fundraiser Consulting and Coaching. We serve the social impact sector by doing professional development for fundraisers, doing strategic consulting, and implementing responsible AI solutions and upskilling in the nonprofit sector. Can you guys do intros when we bebop over to you? The process piece that's really jumped off the page for me, particularly in the last couple of months, is how important it is. And this is something that I learned from Sarah, really, is how important it is that you dive in for these like little wins. Don't go for whatever it is that you're imagining as like the home run of all things AI, like maybe where you press a button and you go on vacation. Like, don't bother with that stuff. Do those little things that are pretty high impact, that don't take you a long time to decide on, don't take you a long time to create or buy or test. Example would be creating custom GPTs. And the reason why it's so important to start now is because each of these solutions that you integrate into your workflow is going to change your workflow. And learning how to be like flexible in how you do your work is really important. And I want to encourage people to build those muscles now. Like, for a lot of us, we get set in our ways. We think this is the way we do XYZ. This is the way we do a briefing. This is the way we do research. Like Hunter, this is the way you prepare for an interview. Well, that changed for you in the last, like a year ago, that changed markedly for you. And then you had an opening to go deeper into I'm guessing, your thought process about interviewing somebody, because you weren't gathering the information and spending time on that. And like, for us, what I'm seeing is that, as consultants, we can't really responsibly just dump a bunch of AI solutions into a company, because things aren't set up yet. So as you start doing, say you identify something that you don't like doing, right? Like an example for me in my industry is writing a thank you note to a donor for a gift, because if we've written one of those, we've written 10,000 of those. And it's just so boring. And you're always trying to come up with something charming in a different way to say. And so I created a custom GPT that makes thank you notes. Well, that changes my process. It changes the fact, like, for example, now it's ready. Now the thank you note is ready to go immediately. So now I have to have somebody who's ready to send it out for me. Let's say it's a letter. Whereas before, they may have had 2 weeks to wait because it was in my inbox. So all of these decisions that you have to make in order to adjust your workflow could affect other people. So my suggestion is start now with these little things. Don't just to get better at, changing and getting flexible and growing your intuition on that. So that's what I would think about process as being a really high priority. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, cool. Josh Houston.
Tell us who you are.
Yeah, Josh Houston. I'm an AI architect. I do a lot of work on the operations side of things, looking at process mapping and helping people figure out how they do the work they do. Because most everybody on an individual basis, if you're more senior in your work, like you have your ways figured out. But in most cases, I find like they have not actually written down the idea. So if you're sitting here and you're like, man, I would love to use AI at my work or figure it out for my company, whether you're an individual looking at your own stuff and just your stuff, or you're looking at your team, or you're looking at your department, or you're looking at your business as a whole, you have to drill down to this granular level of like, what are the things that need to happen for this to be a successful venture? What are the things I have to do on my day-to-day so that I achieve all of my monthly goals, so that I can hit all my targets, and then I can keep doing the thing, right? No matter if you're looking at the high level or the lowest level of like just me and my stuff, I have to create a way of doing it. I have to document how I work. And what we find often is that by starting this conversation with like an end goal of like, can we use AI for this? We actually end up re-sifting and reshuffling a lot of the steps, like Anne was saying, in the process. And that's a good thing. It's good to look at it. Oftentimes, if you're doing this with a team, the team is going to start piping up and being like, well, I do it this way because you do it this way. And I only ever thought that was the way we did it. And no one's ever had this conversation. It sounds familiar, Anne?
Oh my gosh. Well, and some of it came from our business, like tiny use cases. Josh sat down with me and my colleagues, and we were starting to work on an AI solution, and that had to pause because we had to reorganize who does what, like in a big way. And everyone was so happy because it got to let go of things that they didn't like.
That's the nugget. By looking at the things you do, that's why I say spite. Like, why do you need optimism, curiosity, and spite to do this? Is like, there are things that we all hate doing. Like, I hate taking a conversation that I had with a customer where they gave all sorts of feedback and updates on the project, and then organizing those thoughts and notes in a way that I can relay quickly to my team. But I have a GPT for that, or I have an automation for that now. Like, I didn't like the way I was doing something because it took forever. It was a low value add in terms of the time I'm spending in that, like getting the job done with just me versus my assistant. That's an AI tool. There's no discrepancy in like who's doing it better. It's like, it's got to be done. My AI can do just as good or better than I can. So I'd rather delegate there. But when you're looking at the way you work and your processes, it's like just getting organized. I do it this way. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I use this tool, then that tool, then this tool, then that tool. Once you get it all laid out, now you're looking at your work objectively. And if you can map your whole job, and if you're a company and everybody in your team has mapped their job, and you start to create SOPs and you get a library of how we work, now you're creating real assets for your company. And when you go into the M&A space, mergers and acquisitions, like you can't sell your business without a documentation of how the business operates. So there's all these like extra puzzle pieces that we like to like factor in, but like at its most basic level, just step by step. I do this. I do these 5 projects every month in my job. I work with these other 5 projects that I collaborate on, and I have 10 other things that the company wants me to do that we can never get to. Just organizing your thoughts is where you have to start. So processes, like I get real jazzed up about it because that's like my whole thing. But I'll kick it over to Hunter. Share your thoughts, please.
Oh, thank you. Well, I always turn to Josh to help me with my process because he's so good at it. I think, we're all nodding our head, Josh is process king. It's pretty amazing. So for me and my process, I completely agree with what you were saying, Anne, is this being open to being nimble and changing my ways, because I have completely changed my process to the basics. Like, I'm in a different web browser right now than that it's a new AI based browser called Arc, and it's like things are in different places. But now that I'm using it, it's like, yeah, this thing is awesome and it's great. And it actually helps me work faster. It's like little small wins like that. And just being open to be like, oh, scheduling has always been kind of a pain in the in the booty for me. And there's tools to help you with that. I like a few of them. Not all of them are great. Not all of them are going to work for everybody. And just being able to try some, but don't go too far down the rabbit hole. If you're spending more time trying to fix your process than working on your stuff, then take a step back and go back to your work. And you can revisit these things. But there's ways to do it. Other thing for me as well is
you guys, I'm so sorry. My internet like keeps going in and out, and then I come back and I don't even know, and things have changed. Hold on, Hunter, I'm trying to get you back to the big space and clicking buttons. Okay, listen, people. Okay, Hunter, you keep going. I'm going to try to make you bigger.
Okay, we want big butts.
We want big. Oh, Sarah.
There's Sarah. Spotlight on Sarah. So while Sarah is, hi everyone. So I'm Hunter Canning. I am a SAG union actor. So that means I work in TV and film on union projects. I am also an interview and moderator where I host conversations with industry leaders. You can see a lot of my talks over with a wonderful company called Power to Fly. We also facilitate some here. And something that I am working on, as Anne has highlighted, that my interview process has completely changed. I used to get a name, and then I just go do all this research on someone. And then I'd have my questions that I then send them, and then we can have a little back and forth and see if they like it. And then, okay, great. Now, when I have someone that process was always kind of similar, right? Like I Google this, I look at these websites, I do these things. That is a repeatable task, right? So now we built a workflow where we can put in someone's name, and then it does all of these research things for me. It gives me my one pager. I can give it the topic that we're going to talk about. It can propose questions in my style because I've trained it on my style. And now all of that is done and ready to go. And I can show up to the meeting, to the interview, ready to go. And that gives me more clarity and time to do the prep that I need to do to get the best interview possible out of someone, because then they feel relaxed because I've done my homework and I'm not stressed out because I'm not overworked trying to do research on people on top of everything else that I'm doing. So then for me, what I love with process is, because I'm a creative, I am continually striving and questioning how to streamline my creativity and not have AI replace anyone's creativity. I think there's a temptation to automate creativity because these tools at first blush are very good at it. But what's underneath is it's trained on stuff that people made. So it got all those ideas, all that information, all that data, as we like to say, from people. And we as people need to keep making new creative ideas. And we can use these tools to make ideas that we've never had before. We can do that in an artist's way. We can do that with science. We can do that with business. We're seeing it all over the place. So for me, I am trying to use these tools to help streamline my creativity so I can help other people streamline their creativity. And I am launching a new product, and you don't know about this
Tell
yet.
me.
Taking all my interview skills, the other two have known about this, and I just bought the domain. You can look for easypeasyclips.com, where I will help you build your content pillars, do an interview, and then all you have to do is show up, and then you're going to have content, and you don't have to worry about it.
Oh my gosh.
So like that is something like I can do, and like what that does for me is I don't, like Josh, I hate editing video. I'm a photographer too. And I was like, I'm never going into video. I hate it, hate it, hate it. Why would I go into a thing where I'm making video content? Well, I have tools that speed up this process for me now. and I can get it done. And then I can have fun and do my creative stuff. And my talent is connecting with people and learning about this other stuff. So they don't have to worry about it. So I love changing process, but it's uncomfortable.
At the bare minimum, at its most dispassionate, it takes time, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to actually document it so that you get gold stars with Josh, and so that you can hand it off to somebody else and they can hand it off to somebody else. Hunter, before we hop over to Sarah, I wanted to share with you one of the things that you talked about very early on after I met you that I adopted as one of our priorities in our company is that the work that we do allows us to demonstrate care for the people who are in our sphere. So like you being grounded and chill and fully prepared pretty quickly, and then where you can probably help your guest feel more prepared as well, then they roll in and they're like shoulders dropped, they're at their best. You're not trying to like force anything. Same thing with us. Like when people come to our events, we want them to be able to, get all they want their recordings, they want their resources. So being able to get them that and make sure that they feel cared for, and only being able to do it because we have faster ways of doing the work, wrap around things, right? Like you and I can show up and roll like this anytime. That's the easy part. It's all the other stuff. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you because you changed the way that we do things, and helped inspire us to create processes that prioritize people feeling cared for. So.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Sarah, how about you? There we go.
I'm in Mac's screen. So hi, everyone. Sarah Davison. So I'm the founder and owner of Mavenly. We work with boutique services, agencies, firms, lower mid-market service agencies and firms, and help them with the AI adoption so that we can scale their businesses through AI. One of the things about processes that's really resonated with me is this quote by James Clear, where he says, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." And that really hit home for me because that really tied in with the work that we're doing around AI, which is really around taking like the macro into the micro, like Josh explained. But that is the way that you're able to leverage AI, is to get into the micro so specifically. And to do that, you have to break things down and you have to take things apart and go, well, how do we currently do it now? Does it work? What are the key elements of all of these things? And documenting it, and then delegating it, and then scaling it. Because if you have a broken process and you try to scale that, you're just going to get to a larger broken problem faster. So this enables you to have the opportunity to actually identify what works and what doesn't, and be able to eliminate the things that don't work and be able to emphasize the things that do. And I never, ever thought of myself as a process person or a systems person, but I'm starting to see it a different way. And maybe this mindset shift will help you if you're like in this space and you're a business owner and you got to do these documentations and SOPs and things like that, is that systems are the glue that keeps the momentum going in your business. Because you can add projects, initiatives, decisions into your business, but if you don't have a way to systematize that, because people leave, because a person's IP is locked in a certain way, if you're not documenting that, when the person leaves, that's gone. That's your IP gone. So I think that being really mindful of systems and processes, the way, like what shifted it for me is now every time I look at a process that I am taking apart, improving, and then documenting and scaling with AI, that is me. This is the way I'm thinking about it. That is me building IP in my business. Because as Josh says, if you're in the space specifically, like if you're in the services space and you're looking to scale to exit, that is what's going to drive the value in your business. So if you're in this space and you're going, God, this whole AI thing seems so big, but now I have to do this other thing, which is like document and take apart my workflows. The way to reduce that pain is to think about it as every time I'm doing that, I'm adding IP and value to my business. So hopefully that helps with a mindset shift, because that really helped for me to kind of start seeing myself differently as a business owner. So Josh is giving me the thumbs up, and that only is a good thing. So
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
we've all had these big unlocks because of Josh. It's been really
Well, in each other, you know. I mean, I love Josh, but also like you said something about Sarah, you said something about me. I've learned about you with organization. Like that's what I love about this exchange of information with us and flow, and having like the ease and trust in each other to like share ideas and then hop on a call and do it live and talk about it. Because the more, like, as to quote a wise man named Josh, there's more pie. There's pie for everyone, right? You know, and like if we try to hoard it over here, you're gonna run out of pie. But the more we share, the more we flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah, what you were sharing reminded me of a mindset shift that I had that might be useful to other people too, is that these advancements add value in part because of cost containment. And if you don't have the processes, if you don't have your SOPs, I mean, that's the unlock to cost containment, right? You have to be able to hand it off to lower paid, staff, or sunset it after evaluating it, or, invest in different tech or whatever. But we don't as often talk about cost containment, but those, those changes are going to bear fruit really fast, even potentially before generating new revenue. So I've started to think about cost containment when honestly, I just never thought about it before. I was just like, it costs what it costs, So culture is going to encompass some of the things that we've already said, of course. Like it's everything, right? It's everything and it's everywhere. And all four of us have thought about culture a lot, and it's part of what brought us together. And the thing that I wanted to share about it is I'll give a case study. So again, it goes back to people and it goes back to process, but each of these use cases are what defines a culture, and how you handle these things. I think there's a saying about like the worst things people say or do that you tolerate, that is your culture. So, some of these things are going to bring out some bad behavior, and some of them are going to bring out, some really new gifts that you didn't know that people had. But the use case that I wanted to use that I've shared before here, but it just keeps ringing true to me is, we really advocate for people to use recorders, AI recorders on their calls, in part because, like Josh was saying, like having a call with a client, prospective client, collaborator, etc., and then having to like remember what was said or look at our this hodgepodge lodge of notes, trying to pass it on to your team, not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you have it recorded, you flow it to them, you get the net outs, everybody focuses on what they need to focus on, and then we're moving forward just like that. You don't have to wait for everybody to be able to be available for the call. You can do a lot more async work, which is less expensive and more rewarding for a lot of people. But when I advocated for one of my clients to implement an AI recorder, the first thing that I learned was that there's a woman in the organization who takes a lot of joy and a lot of pride in taking the notes at the meetings. And in fact, something I hadn't thought about was that it actually gives her power, because she's aware of everything that was said. She's aware of the changes that people wanted her to make to the notes, right? She's aware of the action items. She gets to push them out. She's at the center of these conversations because she's brought into meetings that she might not otherwise be, as germane to. And what I learned like immediately in like that first sentence was that this is important to her, and that we would be her job, her life, her sense of fulfillment in that role would not be as meaningful to her if we took that away from her. So then the question is like, what do we do about it? Are we the organization who's going to just say, oh, well, too bad, and that's our culture? Or are we the organization who's going to say, maybe there's a happy medium, or maybe there's this other juicy project that you've been saying that you wanted to do? What if we scale back the note taking, maybe cut it in half, whatever, lots of creative solutions. But it was my first run-in with the importance of the intersection of these tools and these workflows and people's self-identity. And since then, I've been a lot more careful, a lot more thoughtful about how I make that recommendation. I usually recommend it as like one of 5 things, right? Rather than like, I mean, to me, it is like the most obvious, easiest use case for getting your time back. But anyway, so that's my number one thing, number one observation about culture. How about you, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. My background before AI work and operations was in employer branding, and I did ops inside of that. And thinking about employer branding, and you nailed the definition. It's everything you say and do, everything you don't say and do as an organization. And whatever the worst of both of those things is what people assume, like across the board. If they have an experience with like a terrible manager, that manager is representing the brand, and their experience as they leave that place might be like, wow, that company sucked, even though it's a great company, even though there's great people, even though the culture on average would be good, right? And one of the things I think with rolling out AI solutions that we've seen over and over again with the conversation between leadership and what to do with this tool, what to do with the tools and the tech is, how do they roll out to their team? And the ones that are doing it right are the ones that are looking for opportunities to equip their team, looking for opportunities to train their team, looking for opportunities to hear their team articulate what it is that they do and how they believe AI can help. Everybody's smart about this stuff. It doesn't take long for someone to pick up from 0 and get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on AI knowledge to know how it can help them in their work. And the companies that are winning with culture are turning to their people and saying, you guys make this place awesome. How can we help you do this better? Right? That's leadership versus the ones that I've seen, and this has been pretty much every unsuccessful project I've been part of with AI has had some component of, well, we as leaders are going to decide what happens. We're going to figure out how much money we can save. We're going to see where we can cost cut. And they're only pulling in certain people, or they don't want to have transparency around that. And that's typically what gives us the ick. And we're like, no, this isn't going to be successful. So we stop those projects before they start most times. But there have been instances where you're like, we built a great product, we roll it to the team, and the team's like, this is directly competing with the thing that I want to keep doing. And you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that we're talking to you about it. And when the leadership looks at those comments and the feedback, they're like, well, yeah, it costs a lot to have them to do that. And you're like, oh, well, we're doing the wrong thing here then. So thinking about how you roll out solutions, whether you're inclusive to the people in your organization or you're exclusive, I think is a huge factor to pay attention to when you're starting to step in. And if you're an employee and you're looking at how your company is behaving, absolutely keep a score on how they are treating you. Like that is something we advocate for always, because if your executive team is sitting around in closed doors, talking with the board, trying to figure out how to squeeze this value, like these are the stories we're going to see over and over and over again with corporate America, is that, oh, this department got laid off, or tons of people just dropped off because they were, they're now in a redundant role that they got replaced for. And in every single one of those cases, these things are happening behind closed doors and in secrecy, because the quiet part is that's what these people who are leading this company cares about. And so culture-wise, we love to work with companies who care about people, who put them into a place to be successful in the long term. And obviously, AI is going to change the way we work. We believe everybody can be a part of that.
Yeah. That's good.
Mic drop from Josh. Yeah. That was every time.
Hunter, you wanna roll with the next one? I'm trying to get you up there. Hold on.
For sure. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And pressing buttons.
And pressing buttons.
And pressing buttons is one of our favorite things.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
It's part of the charm. It's part of the charm. You don't know it, but it is.
Our Gen X mama, we love you. Yeah, I mean, to Josh's point, I think what we're talking about is empathy. We need to be empathetic that we're at different places with this, and we need to be empathetic to each other that this is going to be very hard for a lot of people. And this is going to be a lot of unexpected changes for people. Not everybody's reading AI news or playing with these toys and are aware that a lot of us believe, and we're starting to see the numbers, this is going to completely change how we work. It already is, right? So I invite empathy to the table, to be patient with people as they struggle with some of these questions or some of these tools. If you're ahead of them, be kind, be nice. Learning new things is hard. Be patient and try to put ourselves in their shoes, you know? Be mindful that this is not going to be easy. And we are doing our best here and as a community to keep the conversation going, right? Like I'm talking about it on some of my socials, and I know probably all y'all can attest to this too. I'm getting pushback from people about being an artist that's interested in AI. People are like, what are you doing, man? Like, what's going on over there? And that's good. That's good that they're pushing back and asking questions, because if any, or if like trolls start coming up or whatever, they're not mad at me. They're afraid of what's coming, right? And they're afraid of uncertainty. So, and if they're mad at me, you know, what other people think of me is not my business. So they can go figure that out, or they can talk to me about it. But as a whole, let's bring empathy to the table, be patient, be kind, ask questions, respectfully disagree whenever you want. But let's be respectful about it. And that's, I think, how we can build cultural within a healthy culture within a company, but also the larger culture, right? And giving people the freedom to experiment with these things instead of like walling it off and being like, we don't do AI here. Well, maybe don't do AI with your sensitive data because you don't understand how it works yet. That's fine. But telling people that they shouldn't play or experiment with these things is going to sink your ship. So give people a stipend to go get Chat GPT Plus and do it on their personal computer and don't touch your data. That's fine. You can be like, we're not ready to adopt it yet. That's cool. Figure it out, but let them experiment. Don't shut them out of the conversation.
That is such a good idea that I never ever thought of, is give them a stipend, let them get ChatGPT, practice on their own, right?
Yeah. Right. It's kind of like when we made the shift to working from home. If you were lucky enough to have a company that had the funds, a lot of them provided stipends to make your home office. And then they provided, a lot of places provide upskilling tools. Well, now there's a lot to upskill about. And as we get displaced, as more jobs get automated, those people can learn new things and they can be utilized within the company or within new companies if the company decides to let them go. It's going to keep happening. But I would invite, if you're a leader, see how can you keep as much of the team as possible and utilize their talents in new ways.
I love that. Beautiful.
I'll take the spotlight. Come on.
Sorry, you guys,
Big face. Big face.
I think my hotel Wi-Fi just shuts off every 30 minutes.
Oh.
I think. I'm not sure. Hunter, do you have a wrap up, or do we shoot over to Sarah?
Oh, go to Sarah.
Okay.
I'm
Perfect.
done. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess it's my contribution will be drawing on elements of everybody's conversation because they're so integrated, right?
Mhm.
And maybe a good place to start is like a case study of my husband's business, which we're AIifying, and it's a process. He's got a services business too, and he hires primarily cops, like police detectives, in his work. So as you can imagine, probably not the like fastest audience to pick up things like AI, right? So one of the things that we did with his company is we asked, like, what is the pain point and the most time-consuming process? What is the one thing that they want to delegate the most out? And honestly, the project itself was not a small project to start off with. It wasn't like, oh, let's just use a Fathom note taker. It was actually building like an automation or a document generation automation. But this person just got it, you know, because it instantly relieved him from this pain of this part of his work that he had to do that he hated. He hated doing it. And now he's high on AI. He's like emailing me and saying like, when's the next thing coming? So I think, you know, when we think about like AI adoption, it's a two-phase process almost, where, like, you know, Josh was talking about, it's the macro and the micro. It's like talking about it's developing the culture where you as a leader define the vision, define the architecture and the infrastructure and the scaffolding around which your company can experiment and can play and can learn and can do things with AI. But it's your job to determine what that is. I was reading this study that came out from BCG in January, which talked about, like, they did a survey of 1,400 executives, and there was like a really high dissatisfaction rate amongst the executives with their AI adoption. And one of the key statistics that jumped out at me was there was like 45% of them were unclear on what their organization's policy was towards AI, whether it's towards responsible AI or what are the guardrails or what can we do. So I think that one of the key things as leaders that we need to consider is actually defining that, and then giving people having a culture, implementing a culture of experimentation and enabling them to get those small wins. But for us, maybe they're small, but for them, they're like almost altering the way that they perceive their work now, because we've managed to relieve this pain. And so I think it's a combination of the macro and the micro, and also acknowledging that things are changing so fast in AI. It is moving at such a rapid phase that you've got to give yourself grace to know that what you put in place today could change, and just be flexible with it.
Yes.
You know, just give yourself the grace to say, like, whatever we put together today might look different in 3 months' time, but that's okay. That's part of, I think, the culture of businesses that needs to emerge now to be able to survive and thrive in this new environment, is that things are only going to get faster. And so you have to have this culture that is able to keep up the pace without necessarily losing the wheels in the process. So yeah, I feel like that's a good sort of combination of the beautiful things that everybody's contributed towards this one topic today. Yeah.
Sarah, one of the things that you said reminded me that what I've been seeing with clients, I'm so excited about, because initially I was really worrying about, I'm doing all this upskilling with all of these users of, you know, tools like ChatGPT. So I'm putting all these people out into the world who are now going to go to work and use ChatGPT. And it dawned on me, like, oh dear, now they all have these skills and they're going to want to use it. They're going to expect to use it. And their organizations definitely do not have governance. Like, there's no possibility that they have like an AI council and a framework, and like they've talked to their board and they've communicated with stakeholders. But the last 2 clients I've talked to about the upskilling piece of it have asked for a service to help them build a governance structure. So I'm not even pushing it. They've come to me to ask for it. So yay, right? Like, I feel like it's evidence that like our work is working, you all. I am going to just share a few of the high points, and this was so jam-packed, there's no way I'm going to be able to get them all, but a few things that jumped off the page for me. And I think what I'm going to do is maybe make a one pager of our recommendations if I can. It shouldn't be, video editing is always a thing, right? So one of the things that Josh said was to actually ask the people who are using the tools for their input, and that really that's the only way. The top-down methodology, which by the way, we all kind of started calling into question quite a while ago, but like this is a perfect example of like top-down, this is not going to work. You're not going to be able to make people behave a certain way in front of their computer machines. So it's going to require buy-in from the ground up. And in that process, like it changes the power balance, which is, I think, really awesome. We talked a bit about, you know, how easy it is to have good things come your way if you are the champion for AI stuff, or you're reaching out to others like the guy did with you on TikTok, and all of a sudden it's like turnkey, new opportunities, right? New opportunities to lead, to have power, have proximity to power, to launch companies, etc. We talked, of course, about process, the fall to the level of your systems versus rising to the level of your goals, and how important it is to be able to document those processes because that's the value of your company. Oh, yeah, I already said, but Hunter, what you said about inviting empathy to the table. I think that might be the overarching, you know, theme is that, you know, this is not tab A slot B. We're going to give you a piece of technology and boom, all's well. It's going to take a lot of empathy. And for the people who are out in front, the fifth graders to the fourth graders, the curse of knowledge is real. So as you start developing these skills, it's really important to remember the questions that you came into this with. Like, you know, for me, I did not understand the first time I opened ChatGPT that all of the information on the entirety of the last 40 years of publicly available internet was going to come through this little bar. Like, how? Remembering that that's what it was like to start versus our ability to talk at a higher level all the time, right? It's meeting the people where they are, and that does require empathy because we're all impatient. We want to talk about the cool stuff, the coolest stuff, the cool new tools. So do you guys want to do like a little, like a last words round? That was mine. And then we'll wrap up. Josh, you got a gem you want to drop?
I think I'm all about the way we work, right? How do we change the way that we work? It's looking at the way you do things. It's looking for better ways to integrate tech. In this case, we're talking about AI, and creating something of lasting value. That is something you have a real opportunity to do, whether it's lasting value for you and how you do your job, or whether it's you're looking at your business that you own and you're looking to create lasting value in terms of documenting how the hell you guys do your work. That is often the thing I think that is the hardest to manage throughout this whole process. But equipping your team with the tools that they need to do the work that they do, I think is going to be your best option.
Awesome. Hunter, you?
Ask questions to your employees. Be patient. Take a breath and pause and ask. Just because we can, should we?
Yes. So good. So good. Sarah, what's your takeaway?
That's hard to follow.
That's hard to follow.
I think for me, it's really just because it's been a big shift for me. I just wanted to like reiterate around the process piece, which is as you are looking to scale your business with AI, taking your workflows apart, your processes apart, your systems apart to build something new and better that actually is custom to what you actually want as a result. And documenting it. That very act, aside from the AI, is adding value to your business. That is building IP when you do that. And I am like saying this because it's something that is just recently like been such a massive paradigm shift for me. And now I'm excited about processes. Well,
Well, first of all, thanks to my co-hosts. This was a really good conversation. It was like everything I'd hoped for and more. And I know that our audience will get value from it whenever they watch it. People, process, and culture, right? We love new tools. And we also recognize that for the new tools to change our lives, it's being really intentional and bringing empathy to the table, like Hunter shared. Yeah, thank you all, and have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time we're live, okay? Want to say bye to the nice people, everybody?
Bye.
Bye, nice people.
Bye, nice people.
Find us in
No
DMs.
ifs, ands, or